Greetings, Commanders, and welcome to episode 297 of Lave Radio, the show that likes to talk about the universe of Elite and the fantastic community that surrounds it. I'm your host, Commander Phoenix Defire, Chief Archivist of Lave Station, otherwise known as Colin Ford, and joining me in the orange Sidewinder bar for this episode, we have our Head of Health and Safety, Cmdr Eid LeWeise, that's Ben Moss-Woodward.
I am very upset. I've been throwing myself at Norman all night long and he's still not taken me.
We have our Inhuman Resources Director, Commander Shan.
Hello.
Hello. Also joining us, of course, we have the EIC's Mack Winston.
Hello.
Hello. And we are also joined by Atrus again, as from last week.
Hello.
Hello. No, we're not flying around the game today. There's technical issues that we've had throwing things to Twitch and so on. But we are broadcasting to Twitch. So you can get to that via laveradio.com/live and you click on the live chat, or you just go to twitch.tv/laveradio. So we'll quickly go around the panel, see what they've been up to for the last week. So we'll start with Ben.
I've been back in Minecraft again with the kids. We wound up actually we're going through a series of free trials on Realms 360 plus whatever the hell it is, not Mixer obviously. And we're just using that because we were all playing on my son's Xbox and that was failing miserably. So I was like, well, let's try and move your server onto mine. And I was like, looking into how the hell you actually get a world off of an Xbox One. And it basically said, sign up to Realms and then you can copy your realm from your Xbox to your PC. I was like, you twats. But anyway, we've worked it out and I managed to get local copies of his realms. I've also found a brilliant game called, I think it's Project Zomboid or something like that. It's like 11 quid and it's a isometric zombie survival game with a very, very rich crafting system and zombies, and it looks terrible, but it's also very rich, if you know what I mean. And I've been playing that as a spot of co-op with my flatmates. You will die in it, and you will. One of the lovely things is when you die, your NPC comes back as a zombie.
Oh, well, that's invigorating.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a lot of fun actually.
So that's what's happened to all the NPCs in Elite. They've all died and they'll come back looking like
They're all zombies. Works for me. Works for me.
Actually, you're probably not far wrong looking at the character models.
God. Oh, another thing. I don't know if you saw on the really shitty, very unepic game store, Arcs was available for free recently. Yeah, it was going for free.
Huh.
So Arc was going for free. And for the first time, I actually went through the character creation process of that. And oh my god, those guys are fugly.
Oh,
you
hang
can
on.
create some real mutants.
Arcs.
Yeah, the game Arcs.
Not the Frontier.
Not Frontier Arcs, the game Arcs.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I cannot believe how mutant-like those player characters are. It's ridiculous.
Although that might not be a bad idea for Frontier.
They make Frontier's NPCs look good.
Yeah, pay for cosmetic surgery on your NPCs that you can then tune how they look. So I don't know, maybe drinking at a bar and they get a bag over the head and whisked under the knife to make them look better.
Yes, it's impressively terrible.
Literally paying for cosmetics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Mac, how have you been for the last? Well, it's been a while since we've had you on.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. Yeah, pretty good, really. Yeah, still continuing on with Eastern Promise Expedition on my alt. I have my fleet carrier now, of course, along with, it seems like, half the rest of the galaxy, which has been pressed into immediate service as support for our BGS. So, like the day fleet carriers launched, we had like a war with bugs in it, not Thargoids, a war with the ones where you go into the conflict zone, and the conflict zone is in a different frame of reference to you, so it zips away at high speed. But we found one conflict zone that worked, so I parked my carrier there, which let my squadron mates gave them a large pad without having to fly 600 light seconds out to the star. So that was very useful. So anyway, the carrier is already it's now our next objective. It's parked there. Although that one does actually have like that one, it doesn't really need it. It's got large stations, but it's got my fleet on it, so I might as well take it to where the battle is. So yeah, been having fun with the fleet carriers. I spent some of my accumulated arcs on gussying up my fleet carrier. So it's got the Nautilus ship kit and a paint job, and I found a very imperial sounding ATC, so I changed to that. So yeah, I've spent all my arcs on the carrier. Although I noticed we got some new, well, I think that's a subject, looking at the show notes, that's a subject later, so I won't dwell on it, but it looks like we got some new paint jobs coming. So perhaps I should have saved some arcs for that. Other stuff, yeah. I've been playing some 1 versus 1 StarCraft again, which I haven't for an awful long time, because it's hard and it's stressful sometimes, because you want to win and you don't like losing. And anyway, so I've been on the 1 versus 1 ladder again. I'm only in sort of mid-rank Madness League, so like in Platinum League, but it's a bit of fun. I've been trying to, so I don't get ladder anxiety. I've been trying to think, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. I should just concentrate on whatever bit of my game I'm trying to improve. So, but yes, I've been back playing StarCraft a bit, which is all good fun. Other stuff. Oh, nearly at the
Matt,
yes,
Mac, is it StarCraft 1 or StarCraft 2 you're playing?
StarCraft 2.
StarCraft 2, right? Because I know
Legacy of
that's
the Void.
been. Yeah, I was going to say, it's been put out on. It's been re-released. StarCraft 1 as
Yeah,
well.
the original StarCraft Brood War has been.
Yeah,
that's one thing I loved Brood War back in the day. I mean, I used to play it with my office mate, and we'd always play 2v2s, and we'd really dominate at that, because we played together all the time, so we knew each other's play styles, etc. So we had a pretty good run with that. But the trouble with the remaster, the graphics to me look off. I think Brood War and StarCraft 1 looks amazing at 640 by 480 resolution on a CRT.
scale it up to 4K.
You scale it up, but even with the refresh graphics, it just, because it's pixel art. It's not supposed. StarCraft 2 is designed as to be rendered by
3D models.
Yeah, it was designed to be rendered by a 3D GPU, whereas StarCraft 1 wasn't. StarCraft 1 was designed as pixel art, and there is a certain. So anything designed as pixel art generally looks good as pixel art, but if you try and it's like if you got like an old game and you got a modern LCD and you just let it set the resolution to 640 by 480 on your 4K display, your 4K display does all this interpolation. It just looks blurred and horrible.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like how you'd see it on the original CRT. It takes something away. So I know it's kind of going on a bit about the kind of cosmetics, the graphics of the game rather than the gameplay, but I just, and that's because there's some people there's a guy who I watch one of his casts almost every day, usually at lunchtime, called Falcon Paladin, who does he casts a professional game every day, or a mid-rank game or whatever. And so I watch one of his casts every day, and he does Brood War once as well, but I just can't. It just doesn't look right. especially once you add the YouTube compression on top of that, it just it's not as good as the original. Seeing the original pixel art on a CRT. The other thing about StarCraft, there's an awful lot of quality of life stuff that came with StarCraft 2, like the amount of units you can select at once and the amount of control groups you can have. There's less busy work and more actual concentration on the battles, if you sort of mean. Because like in StarCraft 1, you create a worker and it won't go and mine minerals automatically. You have to actually click on it and send it to a mineral patch. Whereas in StarCraft 2, you can just rally it at a mineral patch and then you just use your hotkey to create work and off you go. And there's a lot, especially in the kind of highfalutin world of the people talking about pros. Oh, StarCraft 1's much better because you need to do this, that, and the other extra, which you don't in StarCraft 2. Well, the thing is, that's not really strategy skill or microing your army. That's just busy work, So I like that StarCraft 2 gets rid of all that busy work and has bigger control groups and all the QIL stuff that it has. So yeah, I mean, purists will probably hate it, but I prefer the way StarCraft 2 works. And there's I think also because of this, I think the pro games are more entertaining as well, because it's less about you see them do more things to do with strategy and tactics rather than managing their economy and stuff like that. So yeah, they don't need to have such a ungodly high APM to be competitive, but I think it results in, if you're watching a game, I think it results in something more fun to watch myself. But that's just me. But yeah, I quite enjoy. I enjoy StarCraft 2. I enjoy StarCraft. Warcraft 2. We used to play Warcraft 2 back in the day as well. If anybody remembers Kali, which was it was like a gaming service that would tunnel IPX over the internet, so you could play all the games that didn't support TCP/IP over the internet, and Warcraft 2 was one of them. If I knew my username and password, I could probably still log in, but because I bought the $25 lifetime pass, whatever it was. But yeah, I used to play that with my office mate as well. We had an unbroken record on the map hell.pud. We used to love that. It was a weird little map with an island in the middle. But yeah, I'm waffling now. Yes. Other than that, continue on with my. We're at the penultimate episode now of Deutschland 83, which is a series on Amazon Prime about Germany in 1983, about East German spy, and all around the time of the Able Archer NATO exercise, and that's getting quite exciting right now. So we'll probably see watch next episode next week. So yeah, I highly recommend that series if you're looking for something to watch and you don't mind watching something with subtitles. Anyway, that's my week.
Fully packed then.
Yeah.
Hi, Atrus.
Hello.
What have you been up to since we last talked to you?
Yeah, not a whole lot. My life is not interesting as Max. Game wise, I've been playing a bit of Elite again, doing some deep space mining, refueling carriers, which seems to be my new lot in life. Because as we speak, that's exactly what I'm doing again. So you haven't found me very far from what I was doing last week, but at least this time I finally made it out to Colonia, and I've been helping out Ed's 38, try to take back Dunker's Rest, which is going all right. But otherwise, out of game, it's just work, really. Watched the new series of Rick and Morty on Netflix, which was very disappointing to only find out that only half of it is there. But the good news is it's still as existential as ever, and I love it.
Oh, good. I'm glad there's someone else out there that likes Rick and Morty. Mind you, I've never actually seen it yet. I'm just a bit overloaded with the amount of T-shirts that you see people walking around with around here at the moment.
Well, yeah, it's quite popular. And I guess the other thing noteworthy is I mentioned last week I was doing a bunch of gardening. The garden thankfully is complete for now, but my wife and I have taken to watching gardening programs, competitive gardening programs, which is something I didn't even know existed.
Is that like the Bake Off, but out in the garden?
Yeah. So where we are, so RTE, which is the Irish version of BBC, has a program called Super Garden, which is essentially that you have 5 gardeners who compete against each other.
So what do they do? Like, who can cut the lawn the quickest and things?
No, it's more like who designs the best looking garden, and they have all kinds of different things, and then they have 3 people come in and kind of judge you accordingly.
I thought they chased after each other with pitchforks.
Only if you're an ogre.
Then again, if it's in Ireland, is it who can grow the best potatoes?
Ooh,
that was a bit naughty, Ben. I mean,
I'm sorry. Potato lives matter too?
No, Ben. I was expecting you to make some sort of pig catching comment, but
Ben Mosswood's views are not representative of Lave Radio.
Or most decent human beings, but still.
Hey, at least we're not talking about the Welsh.
Oh God.
Oh, that just had to leak out.
Well, actually, hang on a second. Before we get off of me, there was a really funny incident with Eid LeWeise and the EDRPG game we have running with Wishblend, where one of our colleagues was from the Isle of Man, and Eid LeWeise decided to give all his opinions on the Isle of Man, really about certain genetics.
Oh dear.
There are benefits to having 6 fingers and webbed toes. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nobody in the Isle of Man has 6 fingers or 11 toes.
I think
yes, there's a lot of people with the same surname, but don't worry, the gene pool is plenty deep, except in Foxdale.
I love how there's always one exception.
Foxdale is where, anyway, the definition of a leisure centre in Foxdale is a sheep tied to a stick, and we'll leave it at that.
I thought that was Aberdeen.
Oh, probably there's always somewhere like that, isn't there? That everyone says exists.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time to move on from me then. Before we offend anybody else on this podcast.
For some reason, as soon as you get to the point where they're starting to discuss dubious practices involving sheep, it's always a good point to move on. So, just quickly touching on.
I will also say, before you make fun of the Isle of Man, we're the first place in the British Isles to be COVID-free.
I wasn't going to make fun of the Isle of Man.
So stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
I wasn't going to make fun of the Isle of Man, honestly.
Well, I was more of a warning to Shan and Ben, really.
My favourite film critic comes from the Isle of Man.
What have I done?
I can just feel it coming on. I have these vibes anyway. Never mind.
So, Shan, how have you been?
I've been very well this week. I haven't done much in Elite this week because I've been too busy at work. In the real existence, I have been. What have I been doing? Nothing much really, because it's been a bit frustrating because we've got all these places we want to go, and there's no point going there because nothing was open. So we're very pleased to hear about the easing of the lockdown next week, so we can actually go to the places that we wanted to go at and actually have something to eat.
Always useful.
So yeah, I haven't really done much really. The car's been stuck. Oh yes, we did. Sorry, one our dog car died this week. It failed its MOT, and although fixing the MOT was relatively inexpensive, a couple £100, it needed like £1,000 worth of work on it, and that was about what the car was worth, to be honest. But we used it so little, it was like just no point spending the money to fix it because it's just not going to be used. So
it went scrapyard with it then.
After the scrapyard, and Mrs. Shan was a bit sad about it because it was kind of it did us 2 4-week tours around Europe and all the sort of stuff like that. So we had some good times in it, and it did very well. But it was just got old, really. So we're waiting. So we're waiting for news on the Cybertruck.
Oh, is that the next target? Is it you want the Cybertruck?
Mrs. Shan wants the Cybertruck.
Pardon?
Mrs. Sham wants a Cybertruck.
Oh, okay. Is she a fan of Lunar Jetman?
No, it was the fact she can drive it along and just like not care about whatever goes on near it. It just treats it like a Grand Theft Auto, I think, is what she's after.
All right, so it's like driving through London in a Humvee, because
Yeah, exactly. Well, also the other thing the other thing that appeals to her about it is that she knows I won't moan at her for like scratching it or denting it because she can't. And though when I pointed out that actually it might not pass the Euro pedestrian laws because it's basically solid armor plate and pedestrians don't do very well against 2-ton cars with solid armor plate, so it might not be legal in Europe. And her comment to that was, "Well, we better get out of Europe quicker then, so they can let this thing in and let me drive around in it." So, yeah.
okay.
So yes. So, and I was like, "What? Gotta have pedestrian safety. What if you were hit by one?" And the sort of comment was, "Well, if I'm hit by a Cybertruck, then it was my fault for being in the way of it." So, anyway.
They're a bit hard to miss, really. I mean, they certainly didn't miss with that brick, did they?
I know, but we should see that not out for a couple of years, so the enthusiasm for it will probably have died down by then.
Well, okay. Let's see what's been happening in the wonderful world up here. We've been getting used to these roasting hot temperatures up here, and I've seen a lot of Mancunians begin to melt. It's quite funny. Also, let's see, in the game and myself, my alt is still plugging away for Arissa. We seem to be under pressure from several organizations this week in Power Play, which it adds that little bit of extra spice. And the main character is still down in the Pleiades, taking out Thargoid scouts. And I must admit, I'm getting pretty hacked off with it, but I've got to keep on plugging because I'm fine. I'm crawling my way to that final elite rank. And yeah, that's really been about it. The usual sort of work and work and play. So let's go and see what has been happening in the development news this week. Well, now with Will Flanagan moving on, obviously a new community manager has taken his place. Now, I apologise in advance. Everybody knows what will probably be coming, but Arthur Tolmie is going to be the new lead community manager. Now, I do believe he's going to be doing more than just Elite, but he is an Elite player. Apparently, he's played the game on the Xbox One since it launched on the Xbox One. He has a most memorable exploration, and he's got a very memorable exploration event, which you can find in the new lead community manager thread and on the forums. Does seem to be a bit of a fan of sci-fi as well. So he's played Fallout 76, Sea of Thieves, but his favourite of all time does seem to be XCOM 2, which I can agree with. That one, if it ever gets its hooks into you, is an absolute pain. In fact, I still lose to people over the internet on a Monday night quite frequently to it.
See, I like XCOM, but not for the reasons you may like XCOM.
Oh, this is interesting. Why do you like XCOM?
Because I take great delight in sending NPCs on suicide missions and not having some stuff.
Of course. So basically, you send in as many rookies as you can, and it doesn't. Well, hang on. The problem is you only get 6 of them.
Well, yeah, quite sure, but it's Darwinian, isn't it? In computer games, it's kind of like if they survive the first mission, they're obviously worthy of the my time.
Ah. So do you always have a couple of cannon, at least one cannon fodder in your squad when you launch it?
Just one. Oh, more than one.
Well, I'm assuming after several missions, you've got at least 3 or 4 veterans that you want to keep alive.
Nope.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
You should play Zerg on StarCraft too. I mean, that's all about sending units to their death.
Yeah. He's also a fan of Warhammer 40k. Apparently, his favorite legion is the Space Wolves. For all those who are into the Black Library. So yes, I must admit I'm still about a third of a way through XCOM 2. It's a case of not having the time, because I know if I start a game, I will blink, and before I know it, it will be a silly o'clock time in the morning, and I don't know where the rest of my life has gone. But,
Oh, sorry, I did think of a game. I was playing Fallout on the Tesla. They released a Fallout Shelter game.
oh right, on the on the screen on the Tesla.
Yes.
Right. I've never played that.
So that kept me going for ages.
Well,
But,
I hope that was when you were parked up and not while you were driving.
no, it won't let you do that when you're driving, unfortunately. It will let you watch Disney Plus on the web browser, but when you're going along, I do. But anyway,
Ben, did you say that you've just got a triple elite?
I didn't. Commander Venter from the Twitch chat did.
Oh, did he? Oh,
Yes.
right, got you. Well, congratulations, Commander Ventra, because basically I'm a bit behind you. Yes. But then again, it's CQC Elite that I've got to go for next.
someone worked out. I think it was last year. It may well have improved now with the fix that went in with the carriers. But someone worked out that it would take you 2 years of playing 6 to 8 hours per day to get CQC Elite, based on current game rates.
Wow.
So I'm guessing nobody has got CQC Elites.
Oh, Musketeer
No,
has.
Musketeer.
Is
Oh, people
the
have.
only one, or
No,
Well,
there's
we
No, there's a
few.
few. Because this is when it took off. People played it lots and lots and lots, and of course got the title relatively quickly. But it went through a bit of a slump, didn't it, for a couple of years? So
Yes, and until
the rate of games.
until the CQC Discord came along, it really did die a death. But we'll be touching on that later on. So yes, he normally flies Arthur, back to our newly community manager, normally flies an Asp, but he is thinking about moving up to a Chieftain. He will also be on this Thursday's live stream if anybody's interested. So you can all tune in, then basically ask him what the heck did he think he was doing tackling this one. Other news includes, well, obviously, Fleet Carriers Update Patch 1. Now, this happened last Thursday. The servers were down for an hour and a half. And yes, in loads and loads of fixes for Fleet Carriers. But unfortunately, one of the problems was it does seem that it has screwed up some paint jobs. And Frontier are aware that the fact that this patch has screwed up paint jobs a bit and are investigating. So we'll probably have a patch 2 before we know it. Anybody else have any?
The patch also fixed the nerfed, however you want to describe it, the yield for subsurface mining of low temperature diamonds. So instead of doing, instead of maybe getting 25, 30 low temperature diamonds off of a single asteroid, you'd maybe get about 20 or so.
Yeah, is that the new subsurface mining that they put in?
That's subsurface mining, yes.
Yeah, the one thing that nobody ever wanted to do because it never paid out.
That's the one.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden after this patch, everybody wanted to do it.
Oh, everyone wanted to do it for a wee while after Fleet Carriers, and then Frontier were like, yeah, a little bit too much there. Let's dial it back a wee bit.
Was there anything
Still
else?
very profitable.
Oh, yes, still very profitable. Was there anything else in the Fleet Carriers patch that caught people's eye?
It was mostly the mining stuff that I was paying attention to.
Yeah, they have.
That's mining I've been doing the past couple of weeks.
I was a bit nonplussed with the patch, but I'm sure we'll come on to the reasons why that is in our main topic.
Yeah, well, I'm beginning, and far be it for me to preempt all that, but I can tell you, I'll probably be on your side for most of it in this one for once, Jan.
I'll just get back on the chair.
Yeah. Bruce and Stephen, that's Stephen. They were on the Thursday Twitch chat stream. There were no hints about Raxler, no hints about Odyssey, or anything else dev news wise. So it was basically the usual. Let's have a look at all these screenshots and just basically talking about background things in the game. So, did anybody else see that stream?
Yeah, I did. It was a fun, entertaining stream, but as you say, no information.
Yeah, no information. I'm not saying that the stream wasn't entertaining. It was entertaining. It's just from our point of view where we're all sort of there going, "Oh, we want info."
Yeah,
you've teased us with this teaser, and
the only thing I would add to that, and we'll be coming to it in a wee bit, was they were encouraging people to maybe go and help the Dark Wheel in their experiment, but we'll be covering that in a bit later.
Yes. Right. Well, let's move on to the the in-game events which have been happening this week. Operation IDA, they are working on Hayashi Orbital this week in HIP 9141. I think that one's almost complete, so they'll probably be moving on to another one quite quickly. Unless the Thargoids pull their finger out and come back with another wave, then I think before Odyssey comes out, we will have all stations repaired at this rate.
Well, probably, yeah.
No, you've gone off and fucked that up, Colin, haven't you? We're gonna get attacked now tomorrow. Just because you said that.
I hope so. Because it'll give the Anti and Xeno initiative. See, good segue there. They've got absolutely nothing to do. There's no new Thargoid attacks, apart from the usual stuff of the Pleiades and the Witchhead Nebula. So that's where I am, grinding rank. As far as power play is concerned, the top 3 powers have remained unchanged this week. As I said before, Arissa seems to be under a little extra pressure from other organizations, and could actually have a couple of systems in turmoil this week. Now, this one is actually quite interesting. CQC. I had a chat with some of the people in the CQC Discord this week, and it does appear that since the new option to launch CQC from the comms panel has appeared, it's been a lot easier to find matches. And on top of that, CQC is a lot busier than it has been for quite a while. They've said that the wait times are now down from half an hour, which is a real worst case scenario, to just a couple of minutes. There does seem to be a little bit of occasional issues accessing the CQC lobby, a couple of crash outs, but those do seem to be few and far between. So the usual request that if you do get these crash outs, please report the issues using the issue tracker and make Frontier take notice, because otherwise they'll just ignore it again. Now, the Dark Wheel. Now this is Kai Zen's little community project, isn't it? It's fair to say.
That is very fair to say, yes.
Yep. Now, they've got the Dark Wheel to about 69% in LFT 926. They've had a bit of a loss with BGS shenanigans, which has caused them to lose to a minor faction in in 926, and that's been replaced by a new faction, which has cost them 5% because they just popped in. How do you think this is all going?
There were a lot of people who were saying that the Dark Wheel just will not be able to ever expand anywhere, and it's already proven that wrong by the
True.
fact that they're upping themselves in LFT 926, and it looks like they'll be expanding out of there the next coming sort of tick.
Yeah,
I think one thing we need to give a shout out though to the player faction in LFT 926 who are sympathetic to the Dark Wheel's experiment and are quite happy to stay at the bottom of that system's league tables.
Right.
So that's really nice of those guys.
What do you know what the faction is?
No, I don't, unfortunately.
The CIA. I'm not kidding.
Is it really?
Yeah, the
Okay.
acronym for the acronym for them is the CIA. Hang on, let me see if I can find the real name for them.
I was going to go off and look on Elite BGS or something like that.
Kaizen said it's a collection of independent agents.
No, there you go.
Oh, there we go. We 07 to you all,
Yep.
commanders. The reason that I knew that the Dark Wheel couldn't expand was in the old days when it didn't actually have a playable base. So it would never leave. It would never leave Shinatra Desra, because as soon as you allied with the Dark Wheel, you became hostile to the Pilots Federation.
Yeah, and then they kicked you out of out of Shinatra Desra.
And you couldn't dock anywhere in Shinatra Desra.
Yes.
But then they put a landable city in Shinatra Desra, which is owned by the Dark Wheel, and as soon as that happened, you can land there instead. So that's when the BGS stuff kicks in again, and it does seem that there weren't any specific restrictions to stop the Dark Wheel from leaving. Maybe the whole point was that it wasn't supposed to leave.
Or maybe it was always meant to be able to leave and to be able to do stuff, and a certain development company whose name we won't mention maybe just cocked up and buggered things up so that they couldn't actually expand.
I've also got the feeling that there is, as far as the mechanics are concerned, there's going to be nothing special about the Dark Wheel. Certainly expand and get into wars, just like any other faction. And Frontier, there's probably somebody at Frontier sitting there thinking, why did it take so long for a group to organize to do this?
Because for the longest time you couldn't.
Yeah.
Well, but you have been able to for an awful long time.
Well, the beginning of Horizons, basically.
Yeah, so
about the first year when people were actually looking into all this stuff.
And of course, there is actually one player faction in Shinrata Desra, which probably expanded there before they limited expanding into permit-locked systems. It's called Los Chupacabras, which means literally the goat suckers. Which actually stems from an old. It stems from an old legend. I think a South American legend about some goats, some demon that would come out in the middle of the night and drain all your goats of blood.
Wasn't there a Phineas and Ferb episode about that?
There was also an X-Files episode, wasn't there?
I was going to say there has to be an X-Files episode about something like somebody sucking goats dry of blood.
It's a Mexican legend.
Mexican, South American, North American, then.
So hang on a second.
Yes.
Is that with the vampire bats? Actually, the real vampire bats actually are, because I do know there's a species of bat.
Yes, vampire. Yes, the real vampire bats. They do that. What they got the fangs that punch a hole through the skin of the animal or person, and they then lick the blood up, and their saliva then acts as a coagulant, which heals it up again. But they're also a very common carrier of rabies, so they're not nice.
Yeah, rabies is if you look up the symptoms and progression of the disease, it is something that you wouldn't want to wish on your very worst enemy. It's really nasty.
The thing
Even
about
worse than being
rabies,
a vampire.
well, the thing about rabies is once symptoms has developed, it's incurable and almost inevitably fatal. So that's why it's very key.
And it's not a nice death either.
No, it's not. No. So that's why if you suspect you've been bitten by an animal with rabies, you have to get the vaccine. And the vaccine is actually quite painful as well because I believe it's administered into the stomach.
Well, on that uplifting note, this initiative was actually mentioned on Thursday's live stream, and people were kind of encouraged to get on board. They didn't make any official comments on whether or not they'll have any results, but it's a community-driven content, which is the kind of thing that community managers love. So, yeah. Sorry about that. I was feeling a bit queasy.
And it's not just to add to that community thing. It's not just that. If you're looking for a goal to have in the game, the BGS is quite a good one because there's quite, once you get into it, especially when you start, well, especially with us because we have interactions with power play as well, even though we don't power play ourselves. There's all sorts of horse trading and stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So, and it's actually quite a fun way of giving purpose to your existence in the game.
Yeah, and that's what I found with power play. It's one of these things which you've got to do in a group, and if that group is very well organized, and there's kind of some kind of structure to it, and it does add to the game immeasurably because you have a purpose, and you're not just there going, "We wonder what to do next," which is the one problem I do have with this game is when I hit that. What do I want to do next? And I find myself at a bit of a loss. But enough of that. Moving on, we have, well, actually, something interesting came through the store, didn't it? Ben, do you want to take this?
They're oh so pretty and shiny, yes. So Frontier have actually released some ship skins that I actually quite like. I've not bought any yet, but I'm tempted. The other day they went off and released the Black Osiris ship skins, which are very, they're very, very good looking. They've got them for the Asp Explorer, the Cobra Mark III, Crate Mark II, Crate Phantom, the Python, and the Viper Mark III.
Yeah, if they really wanted to make the money, they would have done.
They're very Stargate SG-1, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, with a name like Osiris, it's definitely got a feeling of the Egyptian stuff as well.
Yeah, and then the original Battlestar Galactica, because that was all based on Egyptian stuff.
Only thing is, though, I'm kind of holding on for either an Anaconda or a Cutter one. I think the Cutter or the Anaconda with this paint scheme would just look amazing.
I must admit, I am flying about my Clipper at the moment. Turns out that once you engineer your Clipper with the dirty drives and give it a little bit of shield reinforcement, the thing turns into an absolute Thargoid slayer.
Oh, you're not meaning the Panther Clipper, are you?
No, not that one.
Yeah, that's what.
Because I jinx it, but my Imperial Clipper.
That's what I did to my my Thargoid tissue collecting ship. That's a modded Clipper. I think I'll call it the Poke and Run because that's kind of what it.
Yeah, because I can't believe that a large ship that big can get that fast. It's amazing.
Well, it has a higher mass for the hull than the Anaconda, doesn't it?
I know, but you can get with a bit.
Make a good ramming ship.
Oh,
it does.
It does.
Actually, somebody tried to gank me in a Clipper in Baran back in the old Baran days, and that was one tactic they used. I was in my Cutter, and they had those like shotgun type the frag cannons. They had those, and they also rammed me a lot. I did get his shields off, but I did have to run away in the end. But yeah, it was fast. It was quite. It was quite interesting. And then we had a cat and mouse game, so he kept trying to follow. I didn't high wake out. I kept trying to low wake and lose him, and we had a bit of a cat and mouse. But anyway,
Right. Well, okay.
Yeah, Shenanigans had some fun.
Well,
ramming
I have got a bone to pick here with both Stephen Usher and Kaizen. They've both said no, Battlestar Galactica was Greek, and that's true in some of the mythology. But if you looked in the original Battlestar Galactica, which I was referring to, a lot of the styling was based on Egyptian, and also on top of that, when they got to Kobol, they shot on location in temples around Karnak in Egypt. So it depends on which reboot or reimagining you want.
And just to add to the conversation, I believe the structure of the human civilization in Battlestar Galactica was based on Mormonism.
Yes, which when you find that out, you're there thinking, okay. Yes, it's. I must admit, the more that's one where I'm with Dave Gorman on that one. I'm afraid. So yes, I must admit, I will probably be tempted to get one of those for my Asp Explorer. What about anyone else?
yeah, I'd want it for the cutter, really. Actually, I don't. I do have a crate. I have a crate Mark II, but I've got that rather nice, snazzy, like sort of orange and yellow paint job, which looks really good on a crate. So I don't know. We'll see.
It's a Lavecon skin. That's an orange, because I quite like the Lavecon skin on crate.
Yeah, no, this one's like I can't remember what it's called, but it's like red and orange kind of rectangles and stuff.
Oh,
Is that one of the Predators?
Sounds
Yeah,
like
I
Pharaoh
don't know.
to me.
It might be. It's one of the standard ones. The other thing is I spent all my arcs on my carrier, so I have to get more arcs.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
never really, sorry, Colin, I'm never really sure about why they're called those skins Predator, because they're not exactly camouflaged, are they?
Oh no, it's supposed to remind you of what the predator sees, because you know that predator vision that you get is all those kind of different colors. That's what those predator packs are supposed to remind you of. It doesn't look, what I would consider to be predator, which is, I guess, just down to personal taste.
So when you can land on water worlds and dig your ship in the mud, you won't see anyone.
Yeah, that'll be the equivalent of silent running, won't it? Oh dear. Right. What we'll do is we will take a short ad break, and we'll come back with our main discussion for this evening.
Attention. Attention. Second Technician Chris Forrester to the emergency air locks on Deck 6. I repeat. Second Technician Forrester to the emergency air locks on Deck 6.
Ah, Technician Forrester. Just the man. Now, we need you to get in the airlock.
The what now?
The airlock, Forrester, the airlock. The Remlock vendor is malfunctioning. I'm sure a quick clout with your trusty wrench will do the trick. No time to dawdle. Come on. Employee of the month award in for you here. Just step this way and... Brilliant.
Warning, depressurization alert. Warning, depressurization alert. Warning, depressurization alert. Warning, depressurization alert. Warning, depressurization alert.
Attention. Attention. Clear docking bay and launch rubbish pickup tug. I repeat. Clear docking bay and launch rubbish pickup.
We've just had some news that Colin has gone out to feed the Xeno bunny, and we believe there's been some sort of incident with it.
Has anybody given him the holy hand grenade of Antioch?
I don't know,
Afraid
but
not.
last thing we knew, he had the bunny attached to his face.
Oh God. This is not going to go good. So, is it
he will.
hunting eggs as we speak?
I don't know. If he denies it happening, then we'll know it's true, though.
On the other hand, if he suddenly starts wanting, a nice meal around a table with everybody, that's when you have to get worried.
Well, we can't do that unless we're a meter apart now. So,
Is it a meter apart? Sorry, go.
Is it like a witch? If he admits he's the Xeno Bunny, then he's a witch and we must burn him. And if he doesn't admit he's a Xeno Bunny, then we have to throw him in a pond and see if he floats or something.
Well, the Xeno Bunny has acid for blood, so what else? How do you detect acid?
milk. You throw milk over him because
I was going to say, maybe if we just cut his wrists and then let him bleed out and see if that melts the floor below him, then that'll prove whether or not he has acid for blood.
That's a very good.
So we have to get him to voluntarily. We have to voluntarily get him to agree to let us cut his wrists.
Who says voluntarily?
Fair point.
Yeah, we don't. There's nothing. We don't need to do anything voluntary about this.
Is this like the bathtub in Breaking Bad?
I have to confess, I've never seen that.
Well, isn't the Xeno Bunny blood even more?
They try to dissolve a body in hydrofluoric acid, and the acid eats through the bathtub, which then falls through the floor,
along with the body part,
along with the sort of gooey remains of a half dissolved body.
Oh dear!
It's quite NSFL. So
yeah,
don't watch that episode if you're having dinner.
Stephen Usher is suggesting that we maybe try packing Colin in limestone. But that could work.
That would work.
Well, limestone's it's alkali, isn't it? So
I thought the Xeno Bunny's blood was alkali because they were talking about an excess of calcium, and surely calcium.
Well, they were saying it's got acid for urine.
I thought it was caustic.
I guess the test is to put a Mentos in his mouth because he likes the Diet Coke.
Keep going, Chad. I want to see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Well, I was just wondering if you feed Colin Mentos and he's been infected with the Xeno Bunny, what would actually happen to him?
He'll have good breath.
Well, no, because you put a Mentos in a bottle of soda, as you would call it in the States, or a bottle of lemonade, yeah.
Are we going out live at the moment, guys?
Yes, we are.
Oh, so that's
we cut the advert break short deliberately so we could discuss you going out with your holy hand grenade of Antioch to deal with the bunny.
And having the Xeno Bunny attached to your face.
The bunny is fine.
The bunny is fluffy.
This is what I think. Yes, nice. No, Colin.
Right, we burn him. He's a witch.
Yeah, we said if you denied the Xeno Bunny getting you, then that was proof he had.
It's not a gene stealer. It's a nice little fluffy bunny.
But if you were a gene stealer, you'd say that. There's only one proof. We need to bleed him and test his blood, and we can find out from that. It's the only way to be sure.
Definitely, yeah. Or nuking from orbit, because that's the only other way to be sure.
No, we can at least nuke Manchester from orbit.
That's what anyone would know.
Says the guy living in Birmingham.
Yeah. Hey, just be glad you're not in Glasgow. Otherwise.
Yes, I prefer my old Ouija town to anywhere else. Thank you very much. But that might be me with the old
rose-tinted specs.
Rose-tinted spectacles. Anyway, shall we leave alien life forms alone now?
We can do.
Ben. Don't stop interfering with alien life forms, Ben. Stop molesting them.
Well,
I'm not Captain Kirk.
Stephen Usher has just put something in chat about the Pingu and Thing remake.
Stephen, PM me the link to that. I want to see what the hell you're talking about, and I'll share it for everybody else.
Hmm. And was anybody else worried or felt slightly had confused feelings about the gender-swapped Captain Kirk photo? Because I know
No.
William Shatner had.
The only thing I remember about Kirk and things like there was an advert back in years ago. Was it UK Power or something like that? I think it was. Anyway.
Ah, dear. It sees what happens. I do apologise to all our listeners. It does seem that I disappear, and then for some reason I either cannot reconnect thanks to Virgin Media, or they just carry on without me. And yes, things do seem to go a bit Thomas the Tank Engine to Tangent Town when it's not around. Anyway. Shall we discuss our main subject this week?
Yes, let's.
Thank you. Right. This week, we thought we'd focus on something which Shan brought up a little bit last week. Effectively, with the low-temperature diamonds being mined within an inch of their lives, it does mean that an awful lot of people have got incredibly rich. But it does mean that it does feel that, you know, you start off in your Sidewinder, you go mining, and before you know it, you're in an Anaconda, which kind of, I don't know about anybody else, but it feels like that defeats the game for me a little. So, do we need an economy reset? Let's start off with Shan. This one.
No, because you penalise the 3 people left in the game who haven't actually mined. It's difficult because the credits you get always used to be an enabler, but now, if you like, they've turned into an objective. So it's always very difficult to take things away from a player. It doesn't really matter what it is, because if you reset their progress, they get very grumpy. So I don't think it should be completely reset, but I would, if they want to try and negate the effect of the mining and stuff like that, probably they should deduct 1 million credits per ton mined. Because, you know, if you sold a LTD for 1.6 million or void opals for a lot of money, you still would be in profit at 1 million credits per ton mine deduction. You still make a fair whack. You
Yeah.
just wouldn't be able to make the 40, 50, 60 million per rock as you could now. But I guess it depends on how seriously Frontier take the economy of the game. If they're quite happy for the payouts to be as they have been, then they don't really need to do anything. And you could also argue that if there was going to be a reset, it should have been done 2 years ago before the void opal thing took off.
Very true. I mean, it did take a while for people to realize that void opals paid that much, but then once the news came out, everybody went void opal, myself included, because I wanted a T10. But but the main point that I'm trying to make is the way that things are at the moment. If a new player comes in, they come in, they've read the wikis and suddenly realize, right, that's the way to get all the money in the world mine, so that they mine up as quickly as possible, get to an Anaconda and think, right, that's it, I've completed the game. Do you feel that there should be some kind of gatekeeping on that kind of progression?
There should be, but what would that be? I mean, my moral objection to how mining is its maximum reward for minimum risk, and because it is the delta between that and any other way of making money, almost means the only way to play the game to get any credits, which is enabler, is to mine. So exploration, combat, trading, all the rich variety of gameplay that people have is just completely swamped by shooting at rocks. And I just find that whole situation sad, because the game is a lot more than just shooting rocks.
Yeah. I mean, I know they put an awful lot of effort into the deep core mining to make it interesting, but I must admit, I think I'm beginning to agree with you a little bit on this one, Shan. Anybody else? Mac.
Yes. Gold rushes. Generally, this is about gold rushes. I think there should always. Well, actually, there's kind of 2 points I've got here. I think there should always be a gold rush in the game. The trouble with mining, it's been going on for so long. It's not so much a gold rush these days as a gold saunter. It's been like, when they put void opals in, it's been a long time anyway. And mining has been the thing for so long. But they've got this BGS system, etc. They've got a way of. I think the gold rushes should be basically self-nerfing. Once you have satisfied the galactic demand for low temperature diamonds, the price should just naturally keep going down until it's not worth doing anymore. But the back-end system can detect that the gold rush is open and spawn a new one which does something else. So you get different activities that become gold rushes. So perhaps mining dies out, and then the BGS notices this, and so it spawns a new gold rush. Say passenger missions, they were a gold rush one time, or long distance smuggling, that was one of the old gold rushes, or some kind of combat goal or whatever. So it can almost like spawning a mini automatic community goal, perhaps. Have a way of the BGS auto nerfing gold rushes that have gone on for more than a certain, basically once you've satiated the demand for whatever it is, whether it be passengers being taken to a certain place, or low temperature diamonds, or void opals, or whatever, or pirates being shot down, or whatever. So, but you make sure there is some kind of gold rush going on somewhere, and it is a rush that you feel some. If you want to take part in it and make a money hand over fist in this one, there's some sense of urgency that you get to do it before it peters out. And so it's always a rush. And there'll be people who will, part of their gameplay will be, I like looking for the gold rush. It's like finding the next gold rush, because of course eventually somebody finds it and they'll get in all the third-party tools, and then everybody else will show up. But there's some pride in being the person who managed to discover the gold rush through whatever means. They follow the clues in BGS states, or whatever mechanism you put into to cause them to spawn. My second point about gold rushes is it means because everybody shoots up to Anaconda really quickly, and they miss out on quite a lot of the enjoyment of working your way through the medium ships, which are quite good fun to fly. So you go straight from you get a Python to mining or something, and that's about it. That's about all you do in the intermediate stage. So you got your Anaconda and you mine with it, and then you're done. But certainly I found I stayed my main ship for the longest time as a Cobra Mark III back in the 1.0 days, when it was really difficult to make any sort of money at all. And I had fun. I still have a Cobra Mark III because I just remember the fun I had in it. I take it out for a spin every so often, and I'll take it into. I've engineered it a bit. I'll take it into like a Hazres or whatever, just to just to relive the old Carver Mark III days and all that. And the trouble is with this kind of gold saunter of mining is, players naturally they'll go online, they'll Google how to make money in Elite Dangerous, they'll see the gold, the mining thing, they'll mine for a couple of hours, they'll get their big ship, and they'll never have enjoyed all the other activities. So I think if gold rushes are to be intentional gold rushes are to be a permanent fixture, because the mining one was very intentional. They said at the time that, this is intentional, that Void Orb will sell it for this much, yada, yada, yada. They just didn't put the self-nerfing mechanism in until like a year and a half later, and it's still not there for LTDs, really.
Sorry, can I just jump in a second?
Sure.
I thought was that. Sorry, I was just going to say, was anyone else going to jump in? Sorry, or am I running ahead again?
I was just coming to a natural point where I was going to jump.
Okay, go on then.
But I think it's a little bit by the point. I think at this point we do have to. I have to say that there used to be an issue. There used to be the on-demand factor in the markets used to seem to have a stronger effect. So as soon as the demand for a particular commodity was met, the price would absolutely plummet. That does seem to have completely gone, as far as I'm concerned. Just to bring a couple of things up to speed before we move on to Atrus. DJ Wiley Space Hero has said that on the Loose Screws podcast, or Hillbilly Redneck Radio, as I like to call them, they had a couple of the FDev people on, saying that they were aware that the mining credit is imbalanced, and it's something actively thinking about how to balance it. In addition, we've got Prime Bitstorm. He's also said that he thinks that this ship has sailed a long time ago, and the policy in the game is to get people to have a power trip. There isn't any balance anymore, and it's just mining all the way. So Atrus first, and then Shan, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of carry on with what Mac was saying, like skipping all the way to the biggest ship in the game, like which everyone, when I started playing, I came in around the start of Horizons, and the payouts, the big gold rush, at least when I joined on, was I think passenger missions at the time. If it wasn't the Guardian, no, the Guardian Ruins came later. But one of the things I kind of miss about those early days, especially with credits not being in such high demand, was that progression to upgrading your ship to that next level of FSD, to go that little bit further, or buying that nicer set of thrusters, or buying the next ship up, working your way. Like, I still remember when I bought my first Python and I thought, oh my god, now I've really made it. And you kind of have that sense of achievement, and it's not very quickly achieved. It's just you progress to it more naturally. But at the same time, I can understand where some players are like, oh well, I don't have as much time to devote to this, and I want to have some sign of progress. So the faster I can earn credits, the better. But I can see that Shan is ready to go, and I'm kind of done with my point, so let him go.
Shan, unleash.
That sounds like Avengers. Anyway,
It sounds like Gladiators. On my first whistle, you will go first, Shan.
Okay. I mean, I'm a bit flabbergasted actually by the response on the podcast saying we're looking at it. I mean, I'm going to be a bit pointed here, but any games master or manager worth their salt would say this is out of kilter, this is wrong, this is imbalanced, this is all these things. We need to do something about it now, and now was 2 years ago. And the fix is relatively simple, because we talked about all these BGS stuff and tweaking the demand stuff. That's great. They're fixes, but why not just cap the maximum amount per ton? I don't know. Divide the maximum sale price for low temperature diamonds to 17k or something like that. Just cap it. Doesn't need, because then it all takes care of itself. It should have been nerfed 2 years ago, and it's quite telling, isn't it, that players who've gone and brought another account or even reset their account say the best part of Elite is when you're first starting and you've got the progression.
Yes, I'll
And
agree with that.
and that's telling, isn't it? I mean, surely someone at Frontier should have gone, hang on a minute, this is completely out of kilter. We need to do something desperate to stop the game completely trashing itself, economy, progression, and all the other stuff wise, and they didn't.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely agreeing with you on that one. Ben?
Yeah, I'm just gonna. I mean, I remember back in the day when all this were fields and all that kind of stuff. I remember the having to actually make a decision because my bank balance was so tight about whether I upgraded my frameshift drive, my power plant, or my distributor. And I think Matt's completely right there that nowadays you just roll your face over the keyboard and you've got an A-rated Sidewinder. Go off and roll your face over the keyboard again. You've got an A-rated Cobra. Roll your face over the keyboard again. You've got an A-rated Anaconda. And that is a hell of a shame. It really is.
Yeah, it does feel. Yeah, I have no. Normally, I play devil's advocate, or I try and put over the Frontier point of view on this one. But I've got nothing. I am looking at this and thinking, I know that they've put the low temperature diamonds in for a way for people to get their fleet carriers or get to the top level of the game as quickly as possible.
Yeah, but it should have been taken out after the fleet carrier patch was done. Like, okay, we've given people a good few months to get their billions, and if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. Now it's back to working as normal.
I mean, Beyond was 2 years ago, and that's when the whole thing started. And one of the points about carriers is they are a vanity item, or they are a player for a thing for rich players. How many thousands are them now in the game?
Over 8,000. According to Inara, there's more than 8,000. But however, that doesn't take into account the amount that have been decommissioned lately. I have noticed that there's been quite a few decommissioned carriers suddenly appearing up. And that's just my personal observation. I don't have any official news. It's just that
anecdotal evidence.
That's what we want to say. So,
but that makes a lot of sense. That people will come in, get the fleet carrier, try it out for a couple of weeks, and then go, "Okay, thank you very much. Decommission, get me money back, move on."
Yeah.
I wonder if that was because of the mining nerf.
I doubt it, to be honest, because the mining systems are still overflowing with fleet carriers. Anyway, are we wanting to let Atrus dive in?
Yes, I was just about to say Atrus.
Thanks. Yeah, so when Beyond came out and that mining update happened, mining is one of my main activities in the game, and I was delighted when we got the updates and we suddenly made it profitable, because I still remember very fondly the days where mining still paid peanuts relative to everything else. It was probably the least lucrative profession. And when it changed, we really noticed a change in the community where, we had a lot of people who suddenly weren't miners originally suddenly saying, this is the best way for me to earn cash, so I'm a miner now. And then there was all the gold rushes for the void opals. And it was interesting to see the community change in that direction, going from, oh, well, if you really want to earn some cash, you got to go either do combat, or when the exploration updates came out, where they updated the value of exploration data, a lot of people were doing the road to riches to earn their cash.
Yeah, no,
but
that's another thing that annoyed me, is the fact that there wasn't a kind of on-demand mechanic for the road to riches, because everybody is scanning the same things and getting vast amounts of credit, and you would have thought that, no, we've got that data already. We don't want it anymore. It should be a lot less.
Well, yeah, it's either don't pay for the same data or sell it at have it only be available at a reduced rate. Don't give it the full value of it, like the first scan kind of value. So maybe, I don't know, have it or something like that. But at the same time, seeing the exorbitant price of fleet carrier, which is 5 billion credits, which for someone like me, that's not going to happen anytime soon, nor do I have the desire for it. But I'm still happy to see those things in games, but I think there should have been more of a barrier getting to a carrier. Like, you did need to maybe have an elite status in one of the categories, which probably even with the mining rush kind of defeats the purpose, because you could have gotten a trade elite in a day.
Yeah,
But
that might be a bit of a thing.
Yeah, it's just hard to say what is the right way to go about this now, because the moment you start telling people you can't earn money this quickly anymore, and this fast, everyone's going to start complaining that you're taking away everything from me. And, you're no longer making this game available to casual players.
Yeah. Snow Monk has mentioned that fleet carrier should have been behind something like triple elite. So, I mean, I've always thought there's a bit of an argument. Maybe some of the ships should have been ranked. We'll come back to that. Shan.
Yeah, I was going to respond to the triple elite comment, but also about the carriers. I mean, they're the in thing at the moment because they're new and they're shiny, and I'm not really surprised lots are being decommissioned, to be honest, because people probably got carried away, spent the money, and thought, oh, they're not really as fun as I thought they'd be. So
Don't you mean
I'm
they
gonna
got
tell them-
carried away?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
shut up.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just don't know why it's taken them so long, or even thing like that, because it has completely negated any other form of gameplay in terms of getting credits. And even because I remember when I was first, I think I got an ASP, I think, at the end of the Gamma period, and I was so happy. I'd played and played and played and got this ASP, and it was a real achievement to get the ASP when most people were flying around in a Cobra. And now, my third account, that went from 0 to 1 billion credits and trade elite within about 8 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Mac, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I remember getting my first ASP. I got that. That was the proceeds from the Lu Wars. I don't know if you remember the Lu War, the first kind of big. Well, actually, it's about kind of that second biggish player event. The community goals around the Lu Wars paid for my ASP and to A-rate it as well. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. But the other thing about mining and the risk. You think you got a hold full of LTDs worth 1.6 million each. There should be every single pirate in the galaxy, every single NPC, and not the crappy ones who try and shoot you down in a cutter in their Sidewinder. I mean, the nasty engineered pirate lords in third lances with the 4 vultures following should be after you if you've got a hold full of LTDs. And the other thing is, you'll note a lot of these mining systems, Buran was low security. The new Buran is anarchy. It should be absolutely swarming with really high level pirates because of the money that's being made, which would add the risk element. So yeah, you can mine, but you're going to have a combat mining ship, and you're going to have to be fighting elite engineered NPCs from time to time if you want to get your haul back to wherever the cell system is. Although I suppose people can bypass that by hitching a ride in a carrier, but that also gives carrier owners a raison d'etre as well, that they can.
Maybe Frontier were hoping the players would jump in and play that role.
Yeah, but the easy way to avoid that is just to play in solo RPG.
Yeah.
But even then, because I mined in Buran in open. I think I had a grand total of 3 hostile encounters with other players, of which only 2 actually opened fire, and of which 0 posed any actual risk. So, well, actually, one the guy in the Clipper actually did pose a bit of a risk, because he was actually. His ramming tactic surprised me in its effectiveness, and I was a bit complacent with him, really. I should have tried to avoid his rams. But I thought, I've got loads of it. I've got loads of engineered shields. You can ram me all he likes. Whoops, shields offline. But yes, that's the other thing they could do is where player interest. Things like blockade. Back in the early days, and when community goals were a new thing, we did a blockade in BD plus whatever it was, where they were building the FNS Nevermore. And that was fine in open. I mean, we had lots of fun. It was still when small ship combat was a big thing, because it was all people could afford for combat ships, for things like Cobras and Vipers and all that. But of course, a lot of players just bypassed this by flying in PG or solo. But one thing the BGS could take into account is the amount of hostile player activity. And in solo and PG, spawn extra hostile NPCs if there's hostile stuff going on in open. To kind of make sure that we got some super profitable thing happening and all players are attracted. It doesn't matter what mode they do it in. They do face that. They do have to take that risk to get that reward. I mentioned this on Reddit a while back, and it was very controversial with on the Care Bears, but yeah, there does need to be gold rushes. I think gold rush. There should always be some kind of gold rush in the game, but it should also be risky to do. It should attract all the whatever mode you're playing in. If you're in open, then perhaps real players. If you're in PG or solo, then like the engineered NPCs. But something of that order of magnitude of profitability should also bring the dregs of the galaxy to be on your tail. I mean, you should be hounded. If you got a hold full of LTDs, I'm sorry, you should be hounded by pirates.
Yeah, good point. Shan?
Yeah, just going on what was said. I think in many ways, not leaving the mining issue to one side, the balance of the game is now irrevocably changed. I mean, you talk about gold rushes. The first gold rush that I remember was rare goods in Gamma. Where rare goods would spawn, and you could do that. And then it was the
smuggled goods.
Yeah, and then it was seeking luxury, wasn't it? Where you just went out to the space station with some bits and these Type 9s, took them off, you paid them and used it back to the station. So you did that loads and loads of times. Then, as you say, there was the smuggling, and then there was passenger missions. So there's always been a gold rush, and in any MMO, there's always a gold rush of some description. But usually the game developer and people who run the game stomp on it pretty quickly. And you mentioned about NPCs and stuff like coming after you if you got a whole load of LTDs. I completely agree. Absolutely. However, engineering has now made it so even if you have a mining ship, you can still be any NPC in the game because of engineering. If they went back and revisited the loadouts of pirates to make them more like PvP builds, then I would start to think, yeah, okay, that's a reasonably good way of doing it. But at the moment, nah, it's too far gone, I think, to fix.
Okay, back to Ben.
I'm just thinking, actually, with what Mack was saying about. You remember back in the day, you used to have the safe mining places, and then you had low res and has res.
Yeah.
Bubbles, and that's where supposedly your hotspots used to be for mining. But then they went off and introduced the Void Opal hotspot, the low temperature diamond hotspot, the borrowlight hotspot, whatever.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, because I've been in a triple low temperature diamond hotspot. The only time I ever see somebody is when I first log into the game again, and then you have a random chance of a random NPC showing up.
Yes.
And that may be a miner, it may be a pretty shit, to be honest, NPC pirate, or nothing might show up at all. You just don't know. Whereas if you go into a Hazres, there are new ships spawning in constantly to get you. And I'm just thinking that a hotspot in a dangerous system, maybe that should be automatically a Hazres as well as the hotspot.
Yeah,
But obviously a Hazres, a hotspot in a safe system, maybe that's a high sec hotspot, so you've got police people patrolling it.
yeah. I mean, would you agree that if you have a triple hotspot like we've spotted, that means triple the threat that you would have
it
for a
should
high
also.
res?
I totally agree. It should also be triple the threat, but at the moment that would still be at most three NPCs maybe come in at you, and it should be waves of NPCs swarming at you all the chuffing time, like you get if you was trying to mine in a Hazres.
Yeah, it does, because if everyone's boring, when you jumped in, you'd get 1 to maybe even 3 ships would come at you when you first went in. If they'd scanned you and went away, they never came back. If you killed them, nothing else came.
Yep.
And once you got rid of them, you could just go there for hours without anything bothering you.
Yeah, and it's boring.
It would also be a good driver for cooperative play, because player with player style of play is often a lot of fun in Elite.
Mm-hmm.
And if the hotspots were like Hazreses, you'd have somebody mining, but then you get perhaps a couple of your friends to come along to fly combat mission, to keep the pirates off you.
Yeah, they run combat patrols while you do your mining. That'd be awesome.
I mean, if you remember way back when in the alpha, that was fantastic. People were running escort for other players.
What are you thinking? Ethics and credits?
Yeah, but yeah, Atrus.
I can kind of comment on the player with player thing because with the Intergalactic Mining Union, we used to run mining nights in Hazres, but there were so many of the miners that we'd all be in T10s and Anacondas that we had enough firepower between ourselves to be able to defend ourselves. And usually there'd be about 12 of us in the same instance in mining. So you can only imagine with, like, on average, about 6 limpets a ship and 3 mining lasers per ship, and then all these fragments flying about on the same rock, that your frame rates would drop. But the good news is that we did a lot of cooperative play with that, where we were able to both run defense and mine together and actually make a good profit off it as a wing. But we don't really those events are not as frequent anymore because a lot of people are doing core mining, which isn't exactly a group activity, even though you can do it now in a wing. But at the same time, it's just, I think a lot of people, the moment that you start adding a more combat element to it, are going to feel like you're forcing them to do something that they don't want to do. Or for the lone person who doesn't want to go into open or into a private group, they just want to stay in solo mode and just have NPCs to deal with.
So why can't they do low temperature mining in a high sec system? Why do they have to do it in New Buran?
The yields are higher when you're in a Hazres, and
so
with
stop
New Buran,
min-maxing, and if you want to play it safe, but you accept the cost of that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You're asking people to be rational.
Yeah, this
My
is
mistake.
this has always been the problem with min-maxing. It's one of the issues that we've had in power play with people maxing out their cargoes, and then basically when they've played in open, they've been quite easily taken down by legitimate play, and then they go off and do the shipping in solo, which is a whole nother thing. It's all down to the game balance, and I think at the moment, I think we're all agreeing it's out of whack. The so-called risk reward thing doesn't seem to gel, and without sounding like grumpy old men, it's far too easy these days.
And that is
in
the
my
loss of the
day,
game.
Yeah, exactly.
but that's the same with any MMO, isn't it, Colin?
It is to a degree, but at the moment, I think we've lost a lot more than we've gained over the last sort of 6 months. I mean, I know they've been concentrating on the new player experience, but I do feel that, okay, they concentrated on the first couple of hours, but then they didn't concentrate on the next 20 to 30 hours. And yeah, Shan?
Yeah, I was going to agree with you, Colin.
Bloody
But
hell.
no, if you think about it, the role of a developer, there's two separate roles in game development. There's the developing the game, adding content and all that kind of good stuff. And then there's the, if you like, the management of the ongoing game. And the two are completely separate disciplines. And it just feels as though they put all their effort into development of the content of the game and just completely forgot that actually the game needs managing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Jean-Min Welch, I do apologise. I have to say I apologise after I attempt anybody's name. So if I got that wrong, you're not the only one.
I think it might be Jermaine Welch.
Jermaine Welch.
Or maybe Welsh.
Well, moving on. As much as I appreciate the LTD rush to gain the fleet carriers, the ED is an economy game. The easier to gain credits, the lesser credit is valued, and FC is less of an achievement if it can be gained in a week or in 3 days of mining, as it suddenly is. Ships mean less. And then he goes on, maybe at this point remove solo to return balance to that threat system. I would disagree with that, because there are people who just don't want to play with other people, and unfortunately, that's the way of the game. But I do agree with everybody else that maybe solo or private groups need to be a little bit more dangerous. Atrus.
I mean, with addressing his point, with Jermaine's point with regards to ED being an economy game and it's easy to gain credits and the lesser credit is valued, it really does make ships meaningless now, because you can just afford the rebuys. It's no longer the panic moment where you're just leaving the station with your brand new Cobra Mark III. You have barely enough for one rebuy in the hopes that if you complete this mission and you don't die, you'll have enough money for 2 rebuys. But would it be easier to maybe just throw a 0 at the end of all the ship costs now? I'm going to get flacked for this, I know. But throw a 0 at the end of all the current ship costs and start trying to address some kind of rebounds, make everything a little bit
Including
more
the fleet
expensive.
carriers.
Oh my
Ooh,
God.
50 billion, Jesus, yeah. If you really want to piss off the player base, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Fine with me.
Oh, says Scrooge McDuck over there. Shan, yes.
Yeah, as I said, it's difficult. I know we'll probably do this another show with how we actually normalize it, but regarding ships and stuff. See, I always regarded ships as a tool, not as game progression, because each ship generally has their own purpose. It could be a combat ship, it could be a trading ship, exploration, or general purpose, and that's the way they balance the ship. Is they give them a profession, if you like. I mean, there are some anomalies like the Anaconda, but I don't think they ever started out to be game progression. They were a tool, and
Oh,
I
you mean
think,
each ship fits a certain role?
well, an archetype of a role. Because if you remember back to discussions as to why the Corvette, the Fer de Lance, the Viper, the Vulture don't have very long jump ranges, is because the archetype of a combat ship is it doesn't jump very far. So they have an archetype, and they try to keep the ships within these certain archetypes. So that's why I say that they were tools. But now I think it was started from the players, and Frontier responded to the way the players looked at it. Is the players looked at ships as game progression, and then Frontier started calling them the big 3 or the big 4, which implies their progression.
Yeah.
So I think in some ways the players are responsible for the way ships are viewed, because in other games you get bigger armor, you get better weapons, etc. That's game progression. And I think players superimposed their experience in other games onto the ships in Elite, so they then became progression.
You know what? I actually like this idea, and I'll probably get shot down for this. But VNTTR has suggested, how about you lose all your engineers modules permanently when you die?
Ooh, imagine the
Ooh.
salt.
To be honest, I love the idea. It makes
I-
no sense to me. How the hell you've got to go off and spend all this shit trying to get your dirty dries, blah blah blah, and then you can just suddenly 3D print the same damn thing? What the hell?
I know. I must admit, VNTTR. As much as I know how much salt that will cause on the
I
forums,
love it.
I do. I
Yeah.
really like that
Can I
idea.
be more provocative?
Oh, okay then. Okay,
Shad wants to kill our NPCs again.
Shad
No, no.
wants to go +1.
Die too many times and you get reduced in rank from the Pilots Federation because you're obviously not worthy for
You
the
get
Combat
elite.
rank
you
or
get
any
negative
rank?
kills.
Yeah. Would
you
you
get-
say? Would you say that could happen if it's within a certain period? So if you die 3 times within, say, a week, then you lose rank. But if you die 3 times in, say, 3 months, you're all right.
Yeah, it would reset because if you think about it logically, you know, if someone was elite and in game, if you're elite, you're supposed to be one of the most feared pilots in the galaxy.
Mhm.
If you get blown up and have to reject 3 times in a week, then people would start to think you're the pilot equivalent of Frank Spencer, wouldn't you? You know, so you'd get
Shouldn't that depend? You know, you get blown up trying to fly through the docking ring. Fair enough. You get shot down while trying to take on 3 Cyclops in a row or something like that. Then, yeah, maybe fair play to you.
Oh, that just does open up a whole new horrible level of complication. Mac, do you want the final point on this before we move
Yes.
on?
All I have to say, this is it's kind of amazing that this is like it's like in Ghostbusters, you know, when everything's going wrong and they've turned off the grid, it's like Venkman says, human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, Shan and Colin agreeing with each other, mass hysteria. I just can't believe that Colin and Shan are agreeing with each other, which must be portentous of some kind of perhaps Tharg the Mighty will come crashing through the door next or something. Something's going to happen.
Dressed
This
as a
is just
giant marshmallow.
unprecedented.
Are you the gatekeeper?
Yeah, or the keymaster. Who was the key? The keymaster was the gatekeeper was
gatekeeper was Sigourney
Gatekeeper
Weaver.
was Sigourney Weaver, and then the
weird guy
Keymaster
Rick
was-
Moranis.
Yes.
If you think about the respective anatomy, it makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, indeed it does.
And we're back to last week's conversation.
Oh, yes.
Colin, wrap this up before we wrap somebody
Yes.
else up.
The last thing I want to have to do is, I mean, I feel actually I should apologise for last week, leaving you lot alone, because I have now listened to last week's podcast. I can only apologise to all our listeners. I didn't believe that 9GP would cause so much.
Did we have any complaints?
And I'm sure I can find some if I look.
No, and according to scientists, Uranus is full of methane gas.
Which is true. Completely and utterly true. In fact, they're sending up a new probe just to find out. Oh dear.
This time you're to blame.
Hot kettle black there, Colin.
Hey, I am just stating a scientific fact, and if you and your dirty little minds want to run with it, that's up to you. Even though I know Ventura's going to put that right on the end of the thing anyway. Right. We're going to wrap that up there. There's an awful lot to talk about this. So we will be coming back to this in a future episode. So moving on to Community Corner. Now, now I saw this and I couldn't believe it, but the Boon Labs have explained how to shoot an SRV into space. Ben, I do believe you discovered this one.
We actually, Norman, would you like to play it? And that'll give us about 2 or 3 minutes of recovering our voices as well.
Hello, people on the other side of the internet. This experiment required a group of scientists to perform. Meet the actors. A man with a very purple SRV. A woman with a camera. A man with a cargo hold full of poop. And another man with a big cannon on his roof. It all started with a few-second video clip of a SRV jumping against the shield of a spaceship and bouncing off it. That seemed unusual, and therefore we decided we have to investigate how this happens. The base is a cannon with the experimental force shell effect on it. This usually just pushes away a target you hit, in addition to the damage that is caused by being hit by a cannonball. The often praised realistic physics engine of EliteDangerous gets into a bit of trouble when you apply such a shot to a landed spaceship. For reasons that are totally understandable for gameplay, it refuses to move the ship. On the other hand, the engine wants to be realistic enough to not just dump the energy. First law of thermodynamics, I guess. So now the model has issues. Where should it put this energy? For the time being, it just seems to store it in the ship, or its shields or something, until it finds something useful to do with it. A casually bypassing SRV might be just the thing to unload this excess energy to. So be careful with parked spaceships, you SRV drivers. Your habit of jumping onto those ships will never be the same again once enough people know about this effect. And not only the energy is stored as we figured out over time, the complete vector of force is, and it even accumulates. So when you land the ship on the edge of a cliff, you can apply the shots from below, and if you put in enough shots, well, goodbye Alec. We actually shot the SRV into orbit, where all its systems stopped working. It just drifted on, and would probably have done so forever if the driver did not decide to self-destruct at some point, roughly 50 kilometers up in the air. Or not air, as the planet was without atmosphere. But this transfer of force shell energy is not only possible to SRVs. If you ever wanted to build a poop cannon, who am I kidding here? So the poop cannon you always wanted to build in the game is finally here. See tons of biowaste being shot into the valley below. And that's it for today. If you like the science the Boon Labs are doing, thumb up this video. Subscribe to the channel and do not click the bell icon. Honestly, who wants push notifications for new videos? That is annoying. And it's not like we provide any time-critical information here. But whatever, you're old enough, just click wherever you feel like clicking.
I think that's a brilliant video there by the Boon Labs. And yeah, I want a poop cannon, and I love the idea of just shooting Alec Turner into orbit.
Doesn't he get shot into orbit like every other week, though?
It is kind of his raison d'etre, or doing silly things in SRVs is definitely Alec Turner's raison d'etre.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Definitely. So, well, moving on from obviously orbital SRVs, which I'm sorry, I'm just seeing Alex Turner's SRV explode in my mind. It's just funny. We have two publications to highlight this week. We have obviously SAG-I issue 27, which is coming out. We will be able to supply the link in the podcast. And also, it does have its audio component as well. In addition, we also have its sister publication, Parallel Worlds number 10, that's been released this week as well. Again, it also has most of its articles in podcast form. So, moving on from there, Flight Assist is a new fan-made weekly podcast, which is hosted by Commanders Psychit and Mal for the Win. They went live on Monday. We'll be interviewing commanders from across the Elite Dangerous community, so head to Flight Assist Podcast, all one word.com for more info. And the first one went out yesterday. So it does seem that all of a sudden we've got a massive flurry of Elite Dangerous podcasts suddenly appearing. And I think that makes my count up to 5. 6 when you include the Guard Frequency, who are kind of half Elite Dangerous, half Star Citizen.
Okay, I'm going purely by memory. So, Guard Frequency, Flight Assist.
Yep.
Elite Week.
Yep.
Loose Screws.
Yep. Hot and
Orbital Radio, yeah.
Yep. Ourselves.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about us.
Yes. I don't count Radio Sidewinder because they do constant.
Yeah, they're 24/7 streaming.
Now, there used to be Broadcast Cobra.
Yep, but I think they're fairly defunct now.
Yeah, although I have heard rumours that there's an alternative version of it on SoundCloud, but I think people are scared to tell me because it's basically they think I'm a Care Bear and
you're a Care Bear. We're all Care Bears.
Not since I started playing Power Play.
Oh, yeah.
Once I see an enemy player in Power Play, it's supposed to be gloves off. That's it. You're supposed to know that,
Yeah. Have we missed anything? Oh, EliteCast, the Spanish one.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Let me rephrase this. This is the 6th English podcast that we know of.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you're counting foreign language, I think there's going to be a Polish one on Hutton Orbital too.
Hutton Orbital is a foreign language.
Hutton Orbital translated into Polish?
No, was it Commander Rootstat? One of the moderators.
Oh yeah,
is Winged Hussars?
Oh, the Winged Hussars, yes. Do they have a podcast as well? Do they?
Yeah, they're going to be doing an hour podcast on Hutton Orbital. I don't remember the full details of it, but I just remember Vanteon advertising it.
Okay, Elite Kaizen is also saying the German one. I'm not quite sure what that one is, but apparently there might be a German podcast as well.
All right, I think we'll have to do a whole compilation of all other voices that are in Elite Dangerous at the moment. Because
I don't think we could do all other voices because then you have to add in all the streamers and things as well. And there's an awful lot of streamers too, which is awesome.
Yes.
The Elite Dangerous content creators community is amazing and great and lovely.
Is anyone else thinking they're just going to need to find more time in the week now to listen to things?
I don't have enough time as it is.
That's my problem. Since Elite Week split from Loose Screws, it's kind of made things a little bit more difficult on the old podcatcher. But yeah. Well, moving on. Does anybody have any other community news that they would like to highlight before I move on to the rest of things?
Operation Ida had an announcement earlier during the show that's quite important, which is CMM composites are one of the hardest commodities to get to repair a station, and they actually found a gold mine of them, and they're sending out several carriers to go be filled up over the next several weeks, so they need people to haul for them. The easiest location is Aldith Folly in... Oh, God, I want to sound like Colin trying to read this.
Could you add this to the community corner as well, please?
Hang on.
Read it.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to just copy and paste it for Colin there because he's probably going to get closer to the real thing.
Bless you.
Oh, you sods.
I know that system. I can always say Autohenetsi. It's actually an EI. Well, it's kind of in EIC space. It's embedded in EIC space, and we've strenuously tried not to expand into Auto Henetsi because we want it to remain in Anarchy, because it's where we go to clean up all our misdemeanors at the whatever it's called, the brokers or whatever it's called there. But yeah, Auto
Interstellar
Henetsi,
vectors.
it's a system close to my heart, because in fact I need to do another trip out there, because my crate is I had an evening doing BGS stuff, and I basically spent an evening committing petty crime, and I need to expunge my record. So I need to go to, I think it's Gold Terminal or something. It's the Orbis station there. I need to go and visit it.
Auto Henetsi.
Auto Henetsi.
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
See, I managed it.
Well done.
Is that
So-
because you've heard it pronounced first?
Only because I've heard it. I would hate to attempt it without hearing it first.
So,
That's
yeah.
half my problem.
It's Mac, you might be able to confirm it's a small base, so you need medium.
I think there's a big one in also. I'm pretty sure that
Ninja's saying it's a small base.
Oh, the actual place where you need to get your CNN
Aldous Folly is a small base.
Yeah,
It's
we
an outpost.
always go to the big station, because that's where the legal services are. So I've not been to. Well, Aldous Folly, I think. Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever been there.
It's a case of pack up your pythons, because that's going to be the best ship to haul that stuff out in, isn't it? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Thanks, Atrus.
Breaking news there. Thank you, Atrus.
Breaking news. On the
You're
subject of
welcome.
other breaking news, we've just heard from the BBC that they have discovered black neutron stars.
As if neutron stars aren't scary and dangerous enough.
Yeah.
Although
Do they matter,
still better than
Colin?
White Dwarf.
Do they matter?
Presumably they have a lot of matter.
They do matter. They're not antimatter, which is a bit of a shame. Because that's
Black neutron stars matter.
Oh my god!
Really?
I'm guessing a black neutron star is essentially just a black dwarf, but only more so. It's just a cold neutron star, because the neutron stars radiate, I think, because the energy left over from when they had nuclear fusion at their hearts, and it's just the remaining energy that's radiating away.
The spinning balls of mass,
of which there's an awful lot. But I heard it was theorized that black dwarfs wouldn't exist until almost the heat death of the universe. So yeah, that's certainly going to be if they've actually discovered one.
Yep, they've said that this discovery changes astronomy as we know it.
It's going to be a big thing, because they thought it would take so long for such an object to radiate its remaining energy that basically we wouldn't see one yet. The universe wasn't old enough.
Unless it's left over from a previous iteration.
Instead of it being 16 billion years, it's like we go off and find out that this black neutron star is something like 30 billion years old or something.
Yeah, maybe it's like someone leaving code behind in one of their functions. Or something.
Yeah, they say black holes are where God accidentally divided by zero.
No, this is getting very No Man's Sky. Oh dear, spoiler alert. Anyway, right. Before I close out the show, does anybody have any final business they'd like to discuss, just for a minute or two?
I suppose, should we say something about virtual LaveCon?
Yes, I think that might be an idea. You go, Ben.
In that case, then I will say virtual LaveCon is happening on the Saturday the 4th and Sunday the 5th of July. Don't have final times for it yet, but we don't know exactly what's happening. There's definitely going to be an Old Fogies Lave radio. There's going to be a Us Young Farts Lave radio. There will be I believe there's going to be a Hut Mobital radio in there. Stephen Usher is doing stuff. I'm pretty sure Dockers is in there.
Yes, it is.
I'm trying to think what else is in there.
To be honest.
Pardon?
There's a lot of RPG stuff, I think.
Yeah, RPG stuff. We're talking about having some kind of streamers panel. Hopefully Frontier will show up, but we haven't got any words one way or t'other about that.
And the schedule will be released this week or next week?
Karen is hoping to get the schedule out on Friday. So we will find out about that.
Oh, Ben, just
Yeah.
I know it's all TDA, but how will people be able to join, or in theory, virtual LaveCon? Will it be done via Discord or Zoom or mixture? Or
I believe, and this is where we really need Grant for this. Norman might be able to correct me if he's listening live. I believe that the equivalent of the main stage may be done on Zoom, but there might well be live chatting either in our Discord or on TeamSpeak. I don't know yet.
I think that's
yeah.
I think that's about right. But Grant, nobody, we've had no confirmation.
Right.
You faded off there, Norman.
I think that's about right, but I haven't heard any confirmation stuff at the moment, so it's unknown at the moment.
Okay.
The thing is,
we'll be going out live on twitch.tv/Lave Radio and things like that, though.
The thing is, though, Ben, if Colin appears on Zoom with bunny ears, we won't know if it's Zoom or whether it's part of the Xeno bunny infection.
Well, that is true.
In FaceRig, which I've got working with Zoom, there is a bunny.
There is a bunny. Should we?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't stream to call. I can't. If I could stream, I would stream at the moment, and I could go off and put my bunny ears on just for you, Colin.
God, this is making me feel sick. So, on that note, we will move swiftly on. We would like to hear from anybody who has ideas about how maybe the economy could be balanced. Drop us a line at info@laveradio.com.
Extra points. The more fault the ideas generates, the better it is.
Because we love the idea about losing the ship modules, the engineered modules when you die. Oh.
And resetting pilot ranks as well.
You know what? I think what we should do is we should have a competition to see how many suggestions we get to see how high we can make the Salt Mountain.
Winner announced at LaveCon? Or virtual LaveCon?
Winner announced at LaveCon.
I think you could make that Salt Mountain quite high. Remember when Frontier added to the patch notes, mining salt from the community as one of the items? And how much salt that item
That was
caused.
so brilliant. I love that.
That was like
You're giving people ideas, though. You're supposed to keep your ideas to yourself.
All right. Well, our sister station, Hutton Orbital Radio, which we mentioned earlier, they broadcast on a Thursday at 8:30 British Summer Time. You can tune in at tv.forthemug.com or just the audio at radio.forthemug.com. For the discerning commander who likes a bit of CQC action, you can check out the CQC Discord at discord.me.EliteDangerousCQC, or you could even just click on that item in the comms panel now. So we'd like to thank everybody who's who has chipped in on the Twitch chat, and we'd also like to thank our guest contributors today. I do believe we do have a Galnet news by Commander Witherspoon coming up next.
Yes, we do.
Excellent, thank you, Norman. But that is it for another episode of Lave Radio. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, you can email info@laveradio.com. Hit us up on facebook.com/laveradio, tweet us at Lave Radio, or you can join our Discord server by going to discord.io/laveradio. We also have a TeamSpeak server where commanders come to hang out and chat, which you can find at teamspeak.laveradio.com. Do get in touch if you've got any questions or if there's anything you'd like us to discuss in a future episode. Lave Radio is recorded live on a Tuesday evening at 8:30 British Summer Time and streamed out at laveradio.com/live. So thanks to Mack, thanks to Atrus, thanks to Ben and to Shan, and special thanks goes to today's tech specialist Norman, or Commander Ventura, for all his hard work in the background. But until next time, Commanders, fly safe. And if you can't do that, fly dangerous.
Is your life like this?
Sounds like someone having an orange inserted into it. You need a safe word.
Spaceconomy.
I'm gonna see the galaxy.
Ah, damn it. No worries, guys. Hold the fort for 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
According to scientists, Uranus is full of methane gas.
I think you're right, though, Colin.
What have you done with Shan, and when can we have him back?
Galnet News Digest, 23rd of June, 3306. We read the news, so you don't have to. In this week's news, Tharg's open house. Getting rid of Alec. Don't call me Wendy. Tharg's open house. The Thargoids have heard about lockdown and they want to help. Until now, only commanders who go to the effort of collecting a Thargoid probe or sensor have been able to get into the mysterious Thargoid ground bases. Think of it as the price of admission to drive through the organic halls and marvel at the tall central chamber with an egg-covered roof and a mysterious machine in the middle. But now, the Thargoids have opened up their sites to all commanders, even those who can't afford the price of admission. The Thargoids recognise that times are hard and they want to do their bit to help. Commanders are invited to visit any Thargoid base and have a free tour. Please note, however, that the galactic orrery in active bases can only be activated by commanders who bring both a Thargoid probe and a Thargoid sensor. Links continue to be available at the venue as normal. Commanders who can afford to are invited to leave a tip for the Thargoid scavengers who maintain the venue on your behalf. Getting rid of Alec. Cause of major irritation in more than 70 systems. The Buckyball Racing Club is currently causing mayhem at 5 important engineers' bases. Landing at unsafe speeds, driving without due care and attention, and buzzing the tower when the pattern is full are just some of the dangerous activities they get involved in. The Buckyballers are also known to jump onto parked spaceships just for the lols, as they put it, without any thought about the damage they're doing to the paintwork. However, a secret video has now emerged about how the authorities, and particularly the engineers, plan to fight back. A research institute known as the Boone Labs has discovered that by firing a cannon that's had the force shell experimental effect applied to it at a parked spaceship, the kinetic displacement energy is stored in the target ship's shields like a coiled spring. The next time an errant buckyballer tries to land their SRV on top, the conversion of potential energy to kinetic energy is, to say the least, spectacular. There are hopes that after a few weeks of lying in wait at strategic points around buckyball racetracks, a significant portion of the buckyball community will be left floating in space in their SRVs, unable to get down to a planet. Perhaps, after 240 million years, one of these lucky buckyballers will win the trophy for the first circumnavigation of the entire galaxy in an SRV. Full details of this secret research project have been published by the research establishment known as the Boon Labs. Commanders are asked not to do anything to alert members of the Buckyball Racing Club to this fiendish trap. Don't call me Wendy. A sad message has been received at a new unregistered comms beacon in the WNL system in Colonia. Home to EDS 38 and currently the scene of a dispute between the Biscuit Munchers and the dastardly interlopers of New Simbad, the beacon appears to be a valedictory message from a Commander Cmdr 38, who implores his fellow commanders to guard the biscuits. In related news, Little Will Flanagan has been promoted to product manager for unspecified new things, and Captain Arthur Beard Tolmie has taken his place as the head of spin at the Pilots Federation, in charge of Stephen, Bruce and Tim. So it seems pretty unlikely now that the League of Skaven will ever make it into the galaxy. And that's this week's Galnet News. Galnet News, we read the news so you don't have to.
Oscar 7. Oscar 7. Oscar 7.